Victoria. Schools and other government facilities have been affected, hence hindering rescue, as some of these facilities have previously been used as rescue centres. Nyando has for years borne the brunt of flooded Lake Victoria, especially during the rainy season. Now, we want to have this conversation with the Nyando Member of Parliament, Jared Okello, joining us via Zoom. Thank you very much for joining us here on News Desk. At least 6,000 households have been displaced. Some of these are rescue centres. So what happens to these residents? Where are they right now?
Well, thank you very much, Ashley. Once again, as is characteristic of Nyando, our situation is now teetering on dire. And we have, in the recent past, experienced this heavy flooding situation, starting from the year 2018, when we witnessed Lake Victoria bulging out and claiming additional land space. That therefore occasioned and necessitated many homes to move away from the riparian land. Up to now, some of the families are still holding evacuation camps 1 year down the line. And some of the schools had to permanently relocate. 6 schools so far are not able to access their original schools and hence have been merged together with other existing schools on higher grounds. Today is our 3rd day since rain started pounding, and the situation doesn't look good over there. 12 primary schools have so far been closed. Remember that they just reported back for the 3rd term learning session, and now they have been forced to go back and stay on, not at home, because their homes are also flooded and submerged in water, and have to now move to evacuation centers. The situation, as I said, is worrying because we are afraid we may lose life as River Nyando continues to burst its banks and the volumes of water continue to, move to higher levels. So these are very, very worrying trends. And at this point in time, we invite the intervention of the national government through the Special Programs Ministry to at least provide food and non-food items to alleviate the suffering of those who have been displaced so far. The Ministry of Water did desiltation last year in certain rivers and streams. And at this point, we may want to call them upon once again to move back to Nyando together with the same machinery to do more desiltation, because not just River Nyando has burst its banks, we have several other streams that are also staring at, overflow, and that will hence affect so many families. Together with the other partners such as Red Cross, that has indeed done a splendid job there before. The UNICEF has also intervened in areas where their services have been called for. So we ask national government, development partners to move into Nyando speedily at this point in time so that we do not lose lives. If we do not act fast and swiftly, I'm afraid that we may, at the end of the day, lose lives to this most disturbing flooding, Ashley.
You know, you've mentioned that this is not the first time this is happening. It happens year in, year out. What solution do we need to implement to ensure that we curb this once and for all for the residents, for the people of Nyando, so that they don't keep suffering every year in and out?
Well, since the year 1963, which, as many would tell you, epitomized the flooding situation in Nyando, and many families had to be moved to Muhoroni areas, Koru areas, where the government, through its scheming program, gave them free land to settle. And thereafter, we have perennially received pounding rains that have occasioned the same flooding. So you're right to say that this is something that we have lived with, and it is not something one would want to celebrate over. But there has always been in the plan to have a dam built in Koru, called Koru Soin Dam. Since the year 2017, there have been several attempts to make this dream a reality when the government secured over 2,000 acres of land. And so far, the owners of those lands have been compensated, as is in law. And the government has also set aside seed money to the tune of 1 billion to begin works, clearing the bushes, starting the plowing of that area, so that at least once and for all, we will have a dam that will be arresting additional waters from the Nandi escarpment into that dam, and hence control the amount of water that flows into Lake Victoria by way of a water gate. If we are able to accomplish this project, that is the only way that we are going to confine this flooding menace to our history books. The government has additionally made attempts to have dikes erected along River Nyando banks. There is a section that remained about 8 kilometers to terminate into Lake Victoria. 2 weeks ago, the Ministry of Water, through the National Water Harvesting Authority, did send surveyors on the ground to come up with a budget on how on how we determine the amount of monies that the Treasury ought to release to be able to finish the stretch that is remaining. So once we are able to do these two intervening points, which is building the dikes and completing the remainder of the diking project, then I think I can confidently say flooding will be an issue of the past.
Any timelines, briefly?
Well, it's hard to tell when government will implement its scheme. If we were to have a donor, for instance, the World Bank would be coming in, or the IMF, or there is a specific fiscal line where we draw monies from, then I would comfortably talk about a timeline. Actually, you live in this country, everything and anything that has been left in the hands of the national government has great potential of failure and inordinate delays before it is implemented in full. So it will be very hard to say, now that we are only working with the national government, to say with exactitude when this will be done, completed, handed over, and people of Nyando constituency and Muhoroni constituencies, because flooding cuts across two constituencies, and we are neighbors over there, that for once they will say this will be history and life will be normal and there will be no interruption or disruption of lives and schools. And this is something that we are really looking forward to. But I tell you, working with the national government isn't a walk in the park. You have to push, they have to delay, they have to mop up funds, and they will then prioritize and perhaps say, no, Nyando has always had this problem, there are more pressing needs elsewhere. So it is hard, but we do not want to turn pessimists. We hope that within the foreseeable future, they will be able to do this. And we will once again celebrate, just like anybody else who lives out there, not being subjected to these perennial problems that we experience in Nyando constituency, actually.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, sir. That is Nyando Member of Parliament Jared Okello joining us via Zoom, just giving us a picture of the situation in the area. At least 6,000 households have been displaced in Nyando following flooding from the increased rainfall and backflow from River Nyando. Of course, we keep on keeping an eye on this developing story. We'll be giving you more updates on that situation. I hope you're adequately informed. That's all we had for viewers on KTN Home. Remember, News Desk continues shortly. After this short break, we still have much more stories on the other side. So please join us on KTN News. I'm Ashley Mazuri.